A woman who knows the weight of her words never has to raise her voice. Let that land for a second, my friends, because in a world where everyone's screaming to be seen, the most unforgettable women are the ones who don't shout. They shift the room without trying. That's the kind of energy we're tapping into today. This isn't about playing games, memorizing lines, or forcing chemistry. This is about something deeper, something ancient, something every high-value woman carries in her core, whether she realizes it yet or not. So before we go further, press that like button and hit subscribe. Do it not for me, but for the version of you who already knows she doesn't want to chase love. She wants to echo in his memory. Hey ladies, imagine this. You walk into a candlelit room. No one sees you yet. No grand entrance, no noise, no performance. But the second you step in, the air changes, like someone adjusted the lighting without touching the switch. That's what magnetic feminine presence feels like. You didn't say anything, but something about you landed. Now contrast that with what most women have been told their whole lives: be sexier, be cooler, be easygoing, be low maintenance, say something flirty, quick, clever, text him back fast, but not too fast. Don't show too much interest, but also don't be cold. Confused. You're not alone. You were handed a script written by people who thought attraction lived in performance, but real connection, real memory, that doesn't live in volume, it lives in vibration. You don't need louder words, you need words that land. Let that echo in your chest for a second, because the women who captivate a man, who truly take up space in his mind long after the moment has passed, they don't speak more, they speak better, with clarity, with calm, with a kind of playful command that doesn't ask for his attention, it pulls it. This isn't about seduction, it's about imprint. It's about creating emotional ripples in his subconscious that keep replaying when he's alone in the car, when he's half asleep, when he's scrolling through his day, and suddenly you show up in his mind again. You don't do that by being nice or agreeable or low-key. You do that by knowing exactly what kind of energy you bring into a room and how to use your words like instruments, not just noise. Let's be real. Most women aren't overlooked because they're not good enough. They're overlooked because they've been taught to shrink, to doubt, to water themselves down into polite echoes instead of becoming the voice that reverberates. But not you, not anymore, because today we're flipping the script. You're going to learn how to speak in symbols, in timing, in quiet precision. You're going to learn how to make him feel you before he even knows why. And remember you long after the conversation ends, because you're not here to be chosen, you're here to be felt. You're not here to play it safe. You're here to make a man stop mid-sentence, tilt his head slightly and wonder, wait, who is she? So stay with me, my friends, we're just getting started. And trust me, what's coming next will shift the way you speak, carry yourself, and show up in his mind forever. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Not because you need more content, because you're ready to remember who you are. Let's go. Number 1, the most magnetic women don't perform, they evoke. A woman who performs is remembered for a moment. A woman who evokes is remembered without knowing why. That's the difference we're stepping into today, my friends. Because let's be honest, most women are out here performing, rehearsing the perfect text, practicing the perfect line, wondering, should I say this? Should I not? Should I laugh here? Should I hold back? It's exhausting, like you're auditioning for a role in a play called Love Me Maybe. But let me tell you something, he's not looking for a performance. He's looking for a pulse, something he can feel, something that catches him off guard in the best way. And that only comes from presence. Imagine this with me for a second. 2 women walk into the same room. One is polished, poised, smile rehearsed, charm loaded like a weapon. She's saying all the right things, complimenting, laughing on cue. She's magnetic for a minute. The second one, she says almost nothing at first, but her energy is still. Her eyes land with weight. Her posture speaks before her voice does. And when she does speak, it's slow, intentional, like every word costs her something valuable. And guess what? She's the one he thinks about when he gets home. She's the one who shows up in his daydreams, even if they barely spoke. Why? Because she wasn't performing. She was being. Performance is surface. Presence is subconscious. Now you might be thinking, but if I don't say something clever or interesting, won't he lose interest? That's the lie you've been fed over and over again, that you need to impress a man to hold his attention, that you need to be witty, cute, charismatic, smooth, but that's not how impact works. Impact doesn't come from the show, it comes from the space you hold. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Not who you've been trained to act like, not who you think he wants, not the edited, low-calorie version of you that plays it safe just to avoid being too much. You don't need to be clever. You need to be congruent, your words matching your body, your voice matching your truth, because that's what speaks volumes, that's what lands. Ever notice how some women say so much and leave nothing behind? Meanwhile, another woman just says one line and it sticks, lingers, haunts him in a good way. That's not about vocabulary, that's about vibration. When a woman speaks from alignment, from calm, clear, unapologetic alignment, she doesn't just enter the conversation, she enters his nervous system. The truth is, most men can't explain why certain women leave a mark. They just feel it. And it's not because she was loud, it's because she was real. This is your permission to stop overdoing it, to stop layering yourself in performance and cleverness and polish. You don't need to be the most interesting woman in the room. You need to be the one who feels the most true, because performance fades, presence, it lingers. And the woman who knows how to be still, how to speak with soul instead of strategy, she's not just unforgettable, she's undeniable. So ask yourself this, are you speaking to be heard or are you speaking to be felt? Because what we're stepping into next, it's not about the words you say, it's about the language beneath the language, the pulse behind the phrase, the moment when a man leans in, not because you were perfect, but because you were powerfully real. Stay with me. The next part will change how you speak to his subconscious and why you don't need volume to make a man echo with your presence. Number 2, why most words don't land, and the one shift that changes everything. The unconscious doesn't respond to what's said, it responds to what's felt before the brain even catches up. And that, my friends, is where most women get it wrong. They're speaking to his ears when they should be speaking to his memory. You've been trained to communicate with logic. Be clear, be polite, be safe. You say things like, "How was your day?" or "I really like you," thinking that showing interest equals connection. But guess what? Logic doesn't stir the soul. It doesn't move the needle of desire. And it definitely doesn't keep you echoing in a man's thoughts at 2 a.m. Because the unconscious mind, the place where real attraction lives, doesn't speak English. It speaks emotion, image, symbol. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine a dusty old radio. You're turning the dial, trying to tune into a station. Most women are talking on a frequency that only reaches the surface, the mental static. But when you shift just slightly, when you speak in a different language, the language of subtlety, feeling, imagery, you land on a crystal clear station that he didn't even know was there. And suddenly, he's listening without knowing why. That's the power of symbolic speech. So instead of, "I like you," what if you said, "Something about you makes chaos feel quiet"? Boom. That line doesn't just say something, it says something that says something. It paints a picture, it creates a moment, it enters his body before his brain can filter it. And I know what you might be thinking, but what if he doesn't get it? What if he thinks I'm being too deep, too much, too weird? Here's the truth, he might not get it, but he'll feel it. And feelings last way longer than facts. You're not trying to make sense to his intellect. You're trying to plant a seed in his emotional garden, one that blooms when he least expects it. Carl Jung once said, "The psyche is image, not text, not bullet points, not performance. It's image, emotional snapshots that linger in the background of our minds." So when you speak in metaphors, in grounded sensuality, in moments that suggest rather than state, you're not just talking, you're imprinting. You're not trying to get a reaction, you're planting a memory. It's not the words themselves, it's the energy beneath them. It's the image they leave behind. That's what rises up in him later, uninvited, like a scent that reminds him of something he didn't even know he missed. This is your shift, from linear to layered, from obvious to unforgettable, from woman who speaks to woman who resonates. And next, we're going deeper into how to craft these moments on purpose without being poetic, fake, or overly polished. Because when you learn how to speak in symbols, even your silences start to sing. Stay with me, it's about to get alchemical. Number 3, the power of symbolic speech. Say less, mean more. Words that land in the heart don't ask to be remembered. They become part of the memory itself. That's the art of symbolic speech, my friends. Most women try to be understood. The magnetic ones, they try to be felt. Because when you speak in symbols, in images, in subtle invitations rather than plain facts, you're not just having a conversation, you're creating a moment, one that doesn't just exist then, but lingers after, long after. Think of it like this. Have you ever caught a scent, maybe a cologne or a certain kind of wood smoke, and suddenly you're transported? You don't just remember the person, you remember the feeling, the way the air felt, the way your chest reacted before your brain even figured out why. That's exactly what symbolic speech does. It's the emotional equivalent of scent memory. When you say something like, you and me, that's the kind of trouble that gets better with time. You're not just flirting, you're painting a picture. You're letting his imagination do the heavy lifting. And that is what makes it powerful. Because if a man has to imagine himself in a moment with you, he's already halfway in it. And here's the fun part. Symbolic speech doesn't require poetry. It just requires presence. Instead of, I had a good time, you say, that night, that was the kind of moment you replay when you're stuck in traffic and need to smile. Instead of, I like being around you, try, you have that kind of energy that makes the world feel a little slower. It's simple, it's vivid, it's suggestive without being needy. You're not trying to declare feelings or extract a response. You're just leaving an emotional breadcrumb for his unconscious to follow later. When he's alone, when he's thinking, why can't I get her out of my head? And that's the key. It's not about getting him to react. It's about creating a scene he wants to return to. Now, I hear some of you already, but won't I sound too much? No, my friend. What's too much is the world's obsession with making women sound less emotional, less intuitive, less vivid. But you're not here to dull yourself down. You're here to refine your power. You're not saying more, you're saying better. When you use symbolic language, you create a shared experience, one that's small enough to whisper, but rich enough to replay, over and over and over. This is the shift from surface to subconscious, from text to texture, from words he reads to feelings he can't shake. And coming up next, we're diving into 3 magnetic compliments that hit deeper than any I like you ever could, because they're not about what you say to flatter him. They're about what you reflect that he didn't know he needed to hear. Stay with me. We're about to get surgical. Number 4, 3 magnetic compliments that aren't about him, but hit his core. The most powerful compliment isn't one that inflates his ego. It's the one that awakens his essence. Most women have been taught that complimenting a man means validating his looks, his achievements, or his effort. But real feminine magnetism doesn't flatter, it reflects. It doesn't say, you're so great. It says, here's what I see in you that you don't even realize you're showing. And when you reflect something deeper back to a man, his energy, his emotional presence, his quiet strength, it doesn't just land, it hooks. Because suddenly he's not being admired for what he does. He's being felt for who he is. Let's flip the script. Now, you don't say, you're so smart. That's fine, but it's surface. He's heard it before. Instead, you say, you think in angles I don't see. I love that. Now you're admiring his mind, not just his intelligence. It becomes personal, specific, unique to him. You don't say, you're so calm. That's a compliment anyone can give. And instead say, you make calm feel electric. That's not just describing his vibe, it's revealing how his presence changes yours. That's emotional polarity, that's magnetism. And here's one most women never think to say, the way you lead with softness, that's rare. Men aren't used to being seen this way. We expect them to be strong, assertive, controlled. But when a woman notices the tenderness inside his strength and names it without mocking or questioning it, that moment stays with him. He may not show it on his face, but trust me, and that line replays over and over. And you see, you're not complimenting his status. You're acknowledging his frequency. You're not stroking his ego. You're holding up a mirror to his essence. That's what hits the core. And now I know what you might be thinking. Isn't that a little too deep too soon? Only if you're faking it. These kinds of compliments can only land when they're felt, real, grounded, not thrown out for approval, but offered from presence. When you say it with that kind of certainty, you shift from being a woman he's talking to a woman he remembers. And because you didn't just see the man, you saw the frequency behind the man. And that's what makes a man look at you differently, not because you fed his ego, but because you named something sacred inside him. This is where real connection begins, not in admiration, but in recognition. You want to be unforgettable? Then stop complimenting the surface. Start reflecting the soul. And up next, we're going to drop deeper, not just into what you say, but how you say it. Because the same line, spoken with ungrounded energy, dies before it even lands. But say it with presence, with stillness. That's when everything shifts. Stay with me. We're just getting warm. Number 5, energy before words, how to be felt before you speak. Before a word leaves your mouth, your energy has already introduced you. And that, my friends, is the invisible truth no one teaches you, but every emotionally intelligent man can feel. You can say the most magnetic, poetic, perfectly timed line, but if your energy is anxious, needy, scattered, it won't land, it won't pierce, it won't linger. Why? Because energy always speaks first. It's the silent language beneath your words, and trust me, he's fluent in it, even if he doesn't know he is. Let's drop into a metaphor. Imagine walking into a beautiful art gallery. Soft lighting, slow music, everything feels sacred. You see 2 women near the same painting. One is talking loudly, nervously fidgeting, trying to sound impressive. The other is quiet, still. She's looking at the art with full presence, her breath slow, her body relaxed, and her gaze anchored. Guess which one he notices? It's not because she's saying more, it's because she's saying less, but being more. Because your presence, your posture, your breath, the calm in your body carries more weight than any sentence ever could. This is what I call emotional congruence. It's when your body, your voice, and your energy are in sync. That's what makes a man feel safe and magnetized at the same time. That's what pulls him in, not because you're trying to impress him, but because you've already impressed yourself. So let's get real here. Have you ever said something flirty, but your voice shook or your eyes darted away? That moment didn't fall flat because the words were wrong. It fell flat because your energy didn't trust itself. And men, especially high-quality ones, can feel the difference between a line that's coming from centered knowing and one that's reaching for validation. You don't need to perform your power. You just need to rest in it. Before you speak, check in with yourself. Where's your breath? Are your shoulders relaxed? Is your energy calm, grounded, open? Because if you don't feel safe in your own energy, he won't feel safe in it either. And the woman who knows how to bring stillness into a space, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she's loud, but because she's clear. She doesn't rush to fill silence. She doesn't scramble to say something impressive. She lets her essence do the talking. Remember this, the body speaks before the lips do. So if your body is tense, your words will be too. But when your energy is soft, open, grounded, every word feels like it's wearing silk. So next time you're with him, before you say a word, breathe, drop in, feel your feet on the ground, let your gaze hold him without trying to grip him, and then speak from that place. Because when you do, even silence becomes a sentence. And next, we're going to talk about exactly when to drop that powerful phrase, because timing is everything. Say it too early, it sounds needy. Say it too late, and the moment's gone. But say it just right, that's when the spell takes hold. And stay with me. This is where your timing becomes your weapon. Number 6, when to drop the spark. Timing is everything. A whisper well-timed is louder than a scream. And in the world of real attraction, timing is everything, my friends, because you could have the most magnetic, soul-anchoring line in your back pocket, but if you drop it too early, it hits like pressure. If you wait too long, the energy's gone, the window closed, the spark faded before it could catch. This is the art of when, not just what. Most women focus so much on what to say, they forget to feel the rhythm of the moment. But attraction isn't built in the sentence, it's built in the space around it. The pauses, the tension, the tiny shifts in energy. When the room feels lighter, the conversation flows easier, and his guard starts to drop. That's not luck, that's the moment. That's your open door. Imagine you're dancing, not a choreographed routine, but a spontaneous, eyes closed kind of sway. You wouldn't just throw a move at random. You'd feel when the music wants it. You'd listen to the beat, let your body respond. That's what it means to move with timing. Same with words. The most unforgettable line isn't forced, isn't planned. It's dropped like a breeze passing through an open window. Light, subtle, unannounced, but unmistakable. Picture this. You're mid-conversation. Things are relaxed, he's laughing, you're vibing, the moment is alive, and then you lean in with just the faintest smile, meet his eyes for half a second longer than usual, and say, "You and me?" We'd get into the kind of trouble people write songs about. Then silence, a pause, a shift in the air. You didn't ask him to agree, you didn't wait for a response. You just said it like you were talking about the weather and then let it go. And that right there, that's what lands. Because the magic isn't in the volume, it's in the timing. It's not a pitch, it's a provocation, a suggestion, a spark. But here's where most women go wrong. They say it when the energy hasn't earned it yet. They try to force chemistry before it's breathing on its own. That's when it comes off as trying too hard, pushing for a reaction, needing him to respond. And neediness kills the moment faster than silence ever could. Wait until the energy is open, flowing, alive, until he's leaned in, physically or emotionally, until the space between you is soft, playful, or just a little electrically charged. That's your window. And when you hit that sweet spot, you don't even need the perfect words. You just need the right timing, the right breath, the right calm, because a well-timed whisper, it enters his body like memory. Next, we're unlocking something deeper. What happens after the spark? Because most women ruin the moment by lingering too long or explaining what they just said. But the woman who knows how to drop the line and walk, she becomes a mystery he needs to solve. Stay with me. This next part, it's where silence becomes your secret weapon. Number 7, let the silence speak. Stop explaining your power. The women who get remembered know when to stop talking. Let that one hit, my friends, because here's the truth that almost no one tells you. It's not the line that hooks him. It's what happens after you say it. It's the silence, the pause, the stillness that follows the spark like smoke trailing behind fire. Most women say something magnetic and then ruin the moment by hovering over it, explaining, over-laughing, doubting, asking, well, was that weird? Or worse, repeating themselves to make sure he got it. But the woman who knows her power, she says the thing, then drops it. No fluff, no follow-up, just presence. She lets the silence carry her message deeper. She lets the echo do what noise never could. Here's why that works. The masculine mind processes meaning in reflection, not during rapid-fire dialogue. If you say something powerful and then fill the space with chatter, you rob him of the moment he needs to feel it. Imagine tossing a smooth stone into a still lake. That stone makes ripples, but only if the water stays undisturbed. The second you start splashing around, trying to force the ripple, it's gone. You've just drowned your own magic, and that's what most women are doing with their words, and they're not trusting the impact. They're trying to manage the reaction. But the most magnetic woman isn't asking, did he like what I said? She's already moved on, confident that if it landed, it'll linger. Think of it like this. You say, you and me? That sounds like beautiful trouble. And then you smile. You hold eye contact for just a beat longer. Then you take a sip of your drink. You lean back. You go on as if the moment didn't need applause. Because it doesn't. That's what makes him chase it. Not because you begged him to, but because your energy whispered, you can feel that later, on your own time. And later, he will. In the car, in bed, mid-meeting, he'll feel that line bloom like a delayed firework and wonder, what was that? And more importantly, why do I want more of it? Because here's the secret. Silence isn't the absence of power, it is power. It gives him the space to fill in the blanks, to replay the tone of your voice, to imagine you again. And that imagination, that's where obsession lives. So stop explaining your magic, stop apologizing for your edge, and stop diluting your impact because you're afraid of the space after your sentence, and say it. Then rest in the stillness like a woman who already knows she was felt. And coming up next, we're stepping into something ancient, the way the subconscious responds to symbol, not explanation. Because if you think this is about clever lines, you're still playing small. what we're about to unlock. It's the language his mind forgets, but his body remembers. Stay with me. The next piece is where myth meets memory. Number 8, this isn't about getting him. It's about becoming her. The woman who becomes unforgettable isn't the one who wins him. She's the one who remembers herself. Let's make this clear, my friends. This was never about getting him. It was never about the clever line, the perfect timing, or saying something that makes his heart skip. That's small energy. That's chasing. You're not here to chase. You're here to arrive. Because the words you've learned to speak, the calm, the symbol, the spark, the silence, they're not tools to catch a man. They're reflections of the woman you've become. A woman who doesn't speak from need, but from knowing. From vision, not validation. From depth, not desperation. You don't say, you and me would be dangerous together to impress him. You say it because it's true and you're not afraid of your own intensity anymore. You don't pause after the compliment because you're unsure. You pause because you're anchored. And anchored women don't beg. They radiate. And this is your power. Not to hunt him down, but to pull him inward, to shift his energy without touching him, to awaken something ancient in him just by standing in your own skin. Because when a woman speaks from this kind of presence, she doesn't just attract a man, she awakens him to himself, to love, to what's possible when he's in the presence of the real thing. So remember this, you're not chasing connection. You are the connection. Speak like it, walk like it, live like it. And if something inside you just unlocked, if this stirred something deeper than tips and tricks, press that like button. Hit subscribe. We're not here for surface. We're here to speak soul to soul. So here's the truth, my friends. This isn't about lines, it's about language. The kind that rises from a woman who knows who she is and no longer performs to be chosen. If you felt something shift inside you today, that's not a coincidence. That's you waking up to your own magnetism. Now pass that energy forward. Like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with a woman you love, someone who's ready to stop chasing and start radiating. Because when we rise in presence, we don't just attract love, we become it. I'll see you in the next one.